What's up everybody, my name is Ale and welcome to my world of finance. Today we're talking about probably my favorite stock to invest in the whole world. We're talking about Snapchat. Okay, the truth is that I'm actually pretty neutral and leaning bearish, but I know that some of you might be bullish on Snapchat stock and that's totally fine. It's dropped a lot in stock price and it's kind of rebounded a little bit too, but we'll get into that. And I used to actually be bullish on Snapchat stock too. If you look back at my previous videos from last year, I was very bullish on Snapchat stock and I actually did a lot of swing trading. I never really invested long term in Snap, but I did do some swing trading and I had a lot of success, but a lot of things have changed. And so those are some of the things that I want to talk to you guys about today in this video. So grab a chair, grab a beer, if you're old enough. No. Grab a bag of chips, grab some popcorn, sit back, relax, and let's talk all about Snapchat stock.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school, so you can feel cool. Yeah.
Okay, before we begin, let me just say that I'm bringing back Ale's World Consensus. And so all you gotta do is leave a comment down below stating whether you are bullish, bearish, or neutral on Snapchat stock, and I'll tally up the results and have those for you guys in the next video. Okay, now let's take a second to talk about the stock price. Currently, they're hanging out at around $13 a share, but it wasn't too long ago that the stock was at a disastrous low given the recent redesign of the application, which we will talk about more in just a second. Now, in the past week, they are up over 12%. In the past month, they are up around 20%. In the past 3 months, they're actually down around 27%, and year to date, they're still down over 10%. They are also still unprofitable with no PE ratio and a price to sales ratio that is very high at 20.65. Okay, so why all the volatility in the stock price? Well, there's a couple reasons, but let's start with that horrible redesign that practically nobody asked for. Now, what you used to have was in the application on the left side, you had your friends list that had all the associated chats and messages. In the middle, you had your camera application, and then on the right, you had that story section that made Snapchat famous, till Instagram stole it. Who said that? Well, what happened was that Snapchat took your friends' stories and moved them from the right side over to the left side. And now it combined it with the chat and messaging section. So it was no longer ordered in chronological order. It was a lot harder to find. And so if you wanted to find a specific story of a friend, you had to go through your chats and messages and look for that friend and click on their story. It was no longer in chronological order and it became a mess. And it led to people not really looking at stories as much as they used to. And so this left the right side of the application as a sort of discovery section with only famous people, shows, news, and paid promotion. This left a lot of people angry. In fact, on change.org, over 1.2 million people signed a petition to get this update removed from the application. And Snapchat responded by giving kind of a BS, corporate-like response, basically saying, "While we appreciate the feedback, the update is here to stay." Now, this was obviously a move to get more attention onto paid promotion on the right side of the app and to bring in more revenue. And so you might ask the question, well, isn't bringing in more revenue a good thing? And yes, it is a good thing, but not at the cost of your user base. And that's what investors became afraid of, that users would start fleeing the application. And you can't really blame them since Snapchat's response to the whole fiasco was that they were going to leave the redesign and they were not going to change it. So altogether, the horrible redesign, millions of people complaining, famous celebrities saying how much they hate it, management refusing to acknowledge the problem, and downgrades from analysts brought the stock down from the 20s range. And after they announced earnings, it dropped to their all-time low of around $10.50. You're talking about a massive dive there at around 50%. And speaking of those earnings, they came up short around $14 million in revenue and around 3 million daily active users versus analyst expectations. Now, that isn't to say that their earnings report was horrendous. Revenue still came in up 54% year over year, and their first quarter losses came in at $385 million versus $2 billion the year prior. And daily active users also grew from 166 million to a very impressive 191 million. But not meeting expectations and very weak guidance led to analysts hammering the stock. Okay, so why the recent bounce back? Well, I think there's a couple reasons that actually do make a lot of sense. Now, one of those might be that the stock may have just bottomed out. You have to remember that this was not a small dip, this was a massive nosedive. And it's not uncommon for such a popular stock to take such a huge dive and then essentially bottom out and have a little bit of a rebound. at some point the bleeding has to stop, right? So that's reason number one, that the stock may have just bottomed out. Now you may ask, well, why did it bottom out? Well, obviously part of it because the price is just very low for all of Snapchat's potential, but it also leads me to reason number two, which is that Snapchat is actually rolling out an update for the application. Now we know that the CEO has said previously that they would not fix this new redesign, but did anybody really believe him? I mean, nobody asked for this new update, and the stock has been hammered, so I think it was inevitable that they would eventually fix this. Now from my understanding, this new update has been rolling out to iPhone users. I use Android, so I can't really speak on this too much, but from what I understand, they have now moved stories back over to the discovery section on the right side, and they've separated it from friends and famous people, which I think makes a lot of sense. So I believe iPhone users already have this new update, and it should be coming soon to Android users as well. And that leads me to reason number three, which is that a couple analysts have been upgrading the stock, especially Citron Research, which bumped up their price target to $17 per share, stating that all the negativity is already priced into Snapchat's stock price. And they think that Snap still has a lot of potential given that they have a record number of daily active users at 191 million. So in conclusion, and in my humble opinion, I still think that Snapchat stock is a high risk but potentially high reward stock depending on how patient you are. Now, I think that Snapchat usually performs poorly when they go through earnings reports. They're still not profitable. They have a very high price to sales ratio, so their valuation is still very high. But if you think that the new redesign of the application will start bringing people back and adding more daily active users, which is already very high, and you think that management will not make these same kind of mistakes in the future, then you may want to pick up some shares of Snapchat stock at these prices. But personally, I'm still not touching Snapchat stock, and it's not because I'm extremely bearish. If I was, I would put my money where my mouth is and I would buy some put options. But I can't do that because I'm just unsure of the stock. I don't know what to expect. And that's the real reason why I can't invest in Snapchat. I just don't know what to expect. Will management make these kind of mistakes again in the future? I don't know. I mean, they've done it in the past, and when they have done it, they treated their fan base pretty horribly. It took a lot of time. They were very stubborn about it. So I don't know what to expect from Snapchat stock, and it's also very volatile. And listen, guys, AMD is my third biggest stock, and AMD is volatile enough for me as it is. So Snapchat is not a stock that really interests me at the moment. But who cares what I think? It matters what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you bullish, bearish, or neutral? I'll have the results for you guys in an upcoming video. And make sure to subscribe. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you want me to review other stocks, make sure you let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful, beautiful day and that you take care. Bye.